Why sugar cravings are not a willpower problem. Diagnosed with breast cancer. I was very overweight and I was pre-diabetic. And there wasn't a piece of sweet food that could get past me without me eating it. I am Karen Sammer, your sugar freedom coach, and I am a board certified health and wellness coach. I am here to help you to overcome the cravings that hold you hostage so that you can lose weight if you need to do so, manage your blood sugar, or at least balance out your blood sugar so that you can avoid a lifetime of diabetes medication. I would go out and buy a whole box of, I think they were called Suzy Q's or some kind of cakey, cream filled thing. They were probably about this big each. And I think there was a package of 6 or 8 of them. I could polish that off in a night and go to sleep. Now, I was in my 20s when I did that. So these habits were deeply ingrained. I was doing these things for years. And then I'd go on these binging. When I started doing that, I would go on these binging episodes, and then I would get really remorseful about that. Then I'd go on these fasting episodes. I never purged, so I wasn't a bulimic. I was just a binging fasting kind of disordered eater. And I did this for many years, and I'm sure it messed up my metabolism. It certainly didn't do me any favors because I ended up still being very overweight and pre-diabetic. So then when I discovered that I had breast cancer, I decided I had to do something about my health. And when I did, it wasn't really the pre-diabetes that got my attention, it was the cancer. But when I changed my whole life as a result of having that diagnosis, and I lost 135 pounds, I also, as a side effect, I also reversed my pre-diabetes, and I haven't had to deal with it since. So it really does matter what you put in your body when it comes to these lifestyle related illnesses. I'd sliver a cake till it was nothing. So if you only eat a sliver, you think you're not getting many calories, but if you do that 50 times, you're eating a whole cake. I want to set a scene for you. You probably aren't that hungry. You're just maybe bored, or you're tired, or you're stressed. So what is your body's response to that? It's a craving. A craving shows up, and you really try to fight it. You argue with it, you try to fight it off, you try to distract yourself, but finally the craving wins. And then all of a sudden you're standing in the middle of the kitchen wondering how the entire bag of cookies disappeared. Has that ever happened to you? I'm sure it's happened to me. In fact, I know it has. It's happened to me more than once. It was just, I would just one cookie at a time or one something at a time until it was all gone. So I wonder if you can relate to any of this scenario that I just laid out for you. But I want you to understand that you're giving into those cravings is not a character flaw. It isn't weakness. It isn't a motivation problem. It's actually your biology. I'm going to explain to you what actually happens in your brain and your body when these sugar cravings hit. And that fighting harder is not the answer. The more you fight, the more you resist, the harder and stronger those cravings come on. So I want to give you alternatives to that like relentless fight, because first of all, it's unpleasant, it's unsustainable. You eventually lose that fight because of your biology. So what can you do to overcome it? Well, we're going to find out. So I want to tell you a few things. I want to explain a few of the biological things. Number one, sugar spikes blood sugar. Sugar, refined processed sugar spikes your blood sugar very quickly. And then all of a sudden, once it spikes, then insulin comes in, gets in on the act, brings that blood sugar down to below equilibrium, and you crash. And that crash is like an emergency to your brain. So your lizard brain thinks, oh my gosh, something's wrong. This is the part of your brain that is meant to keep you healthy and keep you safe. All of a sudden, this crash happens, and you're in disequilibrium, and your brain goes into emergency mode. So it requires quick energy, or at least it thinks it requires quick energy. So it initiates a craving. So what happens is when you are having those cravings and you feed those cravings with hyper processed food, highly processed HPFs, highly processed foods, or ultra processed foods. They are designed, they are engineered to be hyper rewarding, to be quickly rewarding for you. It lights up your dopamine pathways, which is your reward center. So if you eat a cookie, for instance, let's stick with cookies. Eat a cookie, it is, your body reacts to that very quickly. it sets your dopamine into overdrive. So that's your reward center, meaning that you've given yourself this cookie, it feels good, and you want more. And what that happens is then the brain relates eating sugar to getting relief. And if you do that more than once, all of a sudden you're in this cycle of I'm stressed, I'm panicked, I had this craving. Let me give myself some sugar, and then the reward center is brightly lit up, and you are happy as can be for a minute, and then you go through that cycle over and over again. So really, it isn't your brain isn't trying to sabotage you. It's really trying to protect you, because that is your amygdala, you're the very primitive part of your brain whose only job it is to keep you safe. And so when you are afraid to do something that's a little scary, or you talk yourself out of doing things, that's your amygdala. When you are staying within your comfort zone and you don't allow yourself to step out of your comfort zone, that's your amygdala running the show. So your amygdala is meant to keep you safe. And it keeps you in what you know. It keeps you in what is familiar, what is comfortable. And in this case, it is telling you sugar is going to make you feel good, eat the sugar. But unfortunately, it has long-term effects that the amygdala is not aware of. So this is not a moral failure, is all I want you to know. It is a signal. It is a signal to your body that something is not right. So let's talk about that. First of all, you need to know that willpower is short-term and finite. It is a short-term tool. Your biology is in place all the time, 24/7. It doesn't stop. But your willpower will. Your willpower will give out. So willpower is never a good tool to use for long-term strategy. So let's, just to kind of give you an illustration of this, try to hold your breath. You can hold it for a minute, maybe. You can hold it for a bit, but eventually you have to breathe. And what will happen, even if you don't start breathing, you'll pass out and then you'll automatically start breathing again. But you can't hold your breath forever, right? So your willpower doesn't last forever. You can only use it to a point till it exhausts you exhaust it, and then it's no longer there. You can only hold your breath to a point, but then when you're done, when your body doesn't allow that to happen anymore, either you are forced to breathe while you're still conscious, or you are forced to breathe after you become unconscious. Same with your hunger. You can resist that for a while, but eventually you'll become so hungry that you'll eat anything. That's why when people are stranded and there's no food for many, many days and they resort to cannibalism, sometimes you'll just eat whatever is available to you. And the same with cravings. You can override cravings for a while, but it does not last forever. You can't constantly fight the cravings because they will weaken you. And they will win. They will win the day. So the alternative to that is to eliminate the cravings, quiet the cravings, be stronger than the cravings. And the way you are stronger than the cravings is if you diminish them.